ladies and gentlemen, God said, relax, everything will come to you. That's not a whisper of laziness. That is not a call to sit back and do nothing. No, it is a divine command to rest your heart, quiet your soul, and place your absolute trust in the one who never fails. When God speaks, the storm listens. When God commands, creation moves. And when God tells you to relax, it's not a suggestion. It is a holy assurance that He is working behind the scenes, arranging what your eyes cannot yet see and preparing what your heart cannot yet imagine. So why are you anxious, child of God? Why is your spirit heavy when the voice of God has already declared peace over your situation? Why are you pacing the floor at midnight, wrestling with thoughts when the King of all creation has promised to carry you, to provide for you, and to complete what He started in your life? The battle is not yours. The outcome does not depend on your stress, your hustle, or your overthinking. It depends on the God who holds time in His hands and calls every star by name. There is power in stillness. There is glory in surrender. There is victory in patience. But in this world, we've been taught to chase, to force, to strive, to panic, because we think everything depends on our next move. We treat God like a backup plan, a last resort after we've tried everything else. But hear this with all the fire of your faith. When God says relax, He's not saying give up. He's saying look up. Look up to the heavens where help comes from. Look up to the skies where your prayers have risen. Look up to the throne where your answers are already written. You cannot control what is beyond your reach. You cannot manipulate timing, people, or outcomes, but you can trust, you can believe. You can rest in the mighty arms of God who has never failed a single soul that depended on Him. God said relax. Not because there's nothing to do, but because He has already done what you could never do. He has opened doors no man can shut. He has softened hearts that were like stone. He has cleared paths where none existed. And He is not done yet. Faith is not just shouting hallelujah in church. Faith is the quiet confidence when the bills are due and the answers are few. Faith is when your eyes see nothing but your heart says God is working. Faith is when you stop rehearsing worst-case scenarios and start declaring divine outcomes. Faith is not a mood. It is a mindset. It is the refusal to be moved by what is seen and the unshakable trust in what is spoken by God. But God has told you to relax. Then there is nothing in the universe that can undo what He is bringing to pass. People may delay it, but they cannot destroy it. Circumstances may twist it, but they cannot take it. Your own fears may blur it, but they cannot block it. What God has written for you is sealed, and no amount of anxiety will speed it up. No amount of panic will make it happen faster. You must wait in peace, not in torment. You must wait with assurance, not with fear. Some of you are tired of waiting, tired of hoping, tired of believing. But let me tell you, your tiredness is not a sign to give up. It is a sign that something is close. You're not tired for nothing. You're tired because the breakthrough is near. The enemy fights hardest when heaven is about to deliver. But God says, relax, not collapse, not retreat, not fold. Relax, breathe, trust. The pressure you feel is not the end. It is the birth of something new. Many of you have been running, striving, comparing your life to others. You've been watching others prosper and wondering when it will be your turn. But hear me. What God has for you is tailor-made. It cannot be rushed. It cannot be stolen. What others have is not your measurement. What they accomplish is not your timeline. God has His own schedule, His own design, and when He moves, it will happen so suddenly you'll forget the years of waiting. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to manipulate outcomes. What you need is stillness, spiritual stillness that anchors your soul in the truth that God is faithful. Do you think the one who formed you in the womb would forget your needs? Do you think the one who sustains the sun and moon would overlook your prayers? God is not a man. He does not lie. He does not tease. He does not change His mind. If He said it, He will do it. Relaxing in God is not weakness. It is warfare. It is declaring to the forces of darkness that you will not be shaken. It is standing in the face of delay and saying, I know my God. It is looking at the chaos around you and choosing peace. That peace is a weapon, or that stillness is a sword. Because the enemy thrives on your panic. He wants you to believe that time is running out, that God forgot, that you missed your chance. But the devil is a liar. Time belongs to God. Destiny belongs to God. And your moment has already been scheduled. Do not confuse movement with progress. Just because others are busy doesn't mean they are blessed. Just because you are still doesn't mean you are stuck. God grows things in silence. The seed does not shout while it breaks through the soil. The tree does not scream while it bears fruit. God is working silently, deeply beneath the surface, and when it's time, He will raise you up. Not by your might, not by your efforts, but by His hand alone. You don't need to worry about who left you, who lied to you, who overlooked you. Let them go. Let them walk, because what God brings to you will never leave. What He ordains for your life is sealed with power. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are hidden. Hidden in God's purpose. Hidden in God's protection. Hidden until the perfect time. That is why He tells you to relax. Because your worry is doing nothing but stealing your joy. Your fear is doing nothing but wasting your strength. And God did not bring you this far to abandon you now. He did not part the Red Sea of your past just to let you drown in the river of your present. Trust Him. If He made a way before, He will answer again. The waiting is not punishment. It is preparation. You are being made ready not just to receive the blessing, but to carry it with wisdom. You are not just waiting for something to happen. God is making something happen in you. And when the blessing comes, it will match your maturity. It will match your strength. It will match the character God has been building in you through every trial, every delay, every sleepless night. So don't rush the process. Don't beg for shortcuts. Don't panic when the door seems closed. When God says relax, He's telling you the door is not locked. It's just not time. And when the time comes, you won't need to knock twice. You won't need to force anything. It will swing open because God is the one who opens and no man can shut. Let your heart be still. Let your mind be quiet. Let your soul return to its anchor. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to have every answer. What you need is to return to the posture of trust. Trust like a child. Trust like a warrior. Trust like someone who has seen God move before and knows He will do it again. God sees the tears you cry in secret. He hears the prayers you whisper at night. He knows the silent battles you fight that no one else sees. And He is not distant. He is not deaf. He is not idle. He is present, active, and watching. And when the time is right, He will send help that overwhelms you with joy. He will send peace that makes no sense. He will open a floodgate of blessing that will silence every doubt. When God says relax, He is not giving you a temporary escape. He is inviting you into eternal alignment. He is calling you to a life where your soul no longer panics at every delay, where your spirit no longer trembles when things don't go your way. It is a shift, a transformation, a spiritual recalibration. Because when your heart finally lets go of the illusion of control, God takes over in ways you never imagined. God takes over in ways you never imagined. Your surrender becomes the soil where miracles grow. Your stillness becomes the stage where His power is displayed. There is a divine order in God's process. Nothing in your life is random. Not the silence, not the detour, not the people who left, not the door that didn't open. Even what you call failure, God calls preparation. Even the seasons that felt like a wilderness were part of God's holy design to teach you trust, to teach you dependence, to break you free from the chains of human understanding. Because when God is all you have, that's when you discover He is all you need. Some of you have been trying to force what God has already removed. You've been chasing what God has already closed off. And now your soul is tired. But God is saying to you today, stop chasing. Stop striving. Stop trying to fix what was never yours to fix. Relax. Let it fall apart if it must. Because God allows things to break. Only when He is about to rebuild you into something stronger. What you lost was not the end, was the beginning of something greater. God never lets go of His own. Even when you don't understand Him. Even when His silence seems unbearable. Even when His ways appear hidden behind layers of mystery. He is still with you. He is still guiding the currents of your life with precision and purpose. The delays are not denials. They are divine pauses meant to position you, to protect you, to prepare you. And sometimes the greatest test of faith is not in action, but in inaction. Can you trust God enough to do nothing but believe? The enemy wants you restless. He wants you exhausted from worry. He wants your mind tormented by the unknown. But God wants you anchored. Anchored in His Word. Anchored in His timing. Anchored in the unshakable truth that what is meant for you will never pass you by. Not by mistake, not by delay, not by human interference. What God has for you is wrapped in divine security. You don't need to race after it. You only need to remain aligned with Him, and in His time, everything will fall into place. Relaxing in God is not letting life happen to you. It's letting God happen through you. It is not passivity. It is spiritual posture. It is the heart standing firm even when the winds howl. It is the mind refusing to bow to fear. It is the soul saying, my God knows what He's doing. And that kind of peace, that kind of unwavering confidence only comes from knowing who God is. Not just in theory, but through every battle you face, every valley you've walked through, and every tear you've cried. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You are not a mistake. God crafted your life with such care that not even a moment has been wasted. Every disappointment, every delay, every closed door, it has all been part of a divine masterpiece. And just because you don't see the whole painting yet doesn't mean it's not beautiful. Just because the story feels unfinished doesn't mean it's not powerful. God is still writing. God is still moving. And when He's ready, what He brings into your life will make sense of every sleepless night you've ever had. There is power in trusting when you don't see. There is strength in standing still when everything around you screams, run. Faith is not the absence of questions. It's the presence of obedience. And God honors the heart that waits with quiet expectation. Not with fear, not with desperation, but with bold confidence that says, I don't know how or when, but I know my God will do it. That kind of faith moves mountains. That kind of faith unlocks heaven. When your plans fail, don't panic. God's plan never fails. When people leave, don't beg. God will replace what is lost with what is better. When nothing is working, don't collapse. Sometimes God brings everything to a halt so He can rebuild you with clarity. His ways are not your ways. His thoughts are higher. His timing is perfect. And when He finally releases what He has prepared for you, it will come with no sorrow, no confusion, and no struggle. Only peace, only purpose, only power. Many are asking, when will it happen? When would my life change? But God is asking you, can you relax even now? Can you trust even in the delay? Can you believe even in the silence? Because it's easy to trust when the door opens. It's easy to praise when the miracle comes. But the real test of faith is whether you can still worship in the waiting room, whether you can still walk upright when you don't know what's next, whether you can still bless God even when you're bleeding, and the reward for that kind of trust. It is unspeakable. It is the favor that finds you. It is the breakthrough that overtakes you. It is the provision that meets you where you are. You will not have to run to chase it. It will run to find you. That's what happens when you relax in God. You stop chasing what the world says you need, and you start receiving what God knows you need. The difference is everything. The world's pace is panic. God's pace is peace. God doesn't need your fear. He needs your faith. He doesn't need your stress. He needs your surrender. And when you give it to Him fully, freely, completely, He begins to shift the entire atmosphere around your life. People you never thought would help you will show up. Opportunities you never imagined will present themselves. Doors you didn't even knock on will open. And all because you trusted. All because you stopped forcing and started flowing with God's perfect will. Don't measure your life by what you can see now. What you see is only a shadow of what God is preparing. You may feel stuck, but God is not stuck. You may feel delayed, but God is never late. You may feel like nothing is changing, but God is changing everything quietly, deliberately, eternally. The moment you stop striving and start surrendering is the moment you align yourself with supernatural flow. Relax. Not because the journey is over, but because you finally realize you're not walking alone. God is with you in every step, every struggle, every silence. He is guiding even the details you overlook. He is protecting you from things you don't even know are threatening you. And He is working all things together for your good. Not some things, all things. Even your pain, even your waiting, even the parts that don't make sense. This is your time to rest. Not in defeat, but in faith. Not in frustration, but in hope. Because what is ahead of you is greater than what is behind you. God is not finished. He is not done writing your story. And the next chapter will make you weep, not with sorrow, but with joy so overwhelming you'll drop to your knees in awe. You will say, God, you did more than I asked, more than I imagined, more than I deserve. That's the kind of ending God writes for those who trust Him completely. And when God tells you to relax, He is not asking you to step away from purpose, but to step into trust. Trust is not passive. Trust is not weakness. Trust is fire-tested strength. Trust is the posture of a soul that refuses to be moved by what the world says because it has been rooted in what God has spoken. God is not looking for noise, for performance, for panic. God is looking for stillness, because stillness is the language of surrender. And when your soul is surrendered, heaven responds. Heaven does not respond to chaos. Heaven moves in response to faith. You must understand God is not on your clock. He is not governed by your deadlines. He is not shaken by your emergencies. When God says relax, He is teaching you to release your grip on time. You may think you're late. You may feel like you're behind, but God sees you right on schedule. There is no pressure in heaven. There's no anxiety in the throne room. The God who controls the flow of time is never rushing. The God who sees the end from the beginning knows exactly when and how your breakthrough will come. Stop measuring your worth by what hasn't happened yet. Stop defining your future by the delay you see now. Delay is not denial. Delay is often divine protection. Delay is where God prepares what is beyond your imagination. You prayed for something great, but do you really believe that greatness can be rushed? When God makes diamonds, He applies pressure. When God molds vessels, He uses fire. And when God prepares a soul for destiny, He often tells that soul to be still, to wait, to trust. Why? Because you must be ready to carry the weight of what is coming. God is not building for now. He is building for always. You are not being prepared for temporary applause. You are being fashioned for eternal impact. And what you carry must be rooted in obedience, not pride. So God strips away your dependence on results. He tears down your addiction to recognition. He removes your idols, success, relationships, speed. And then in the quietness of surrender, He speaks. He whispers, relax. I've got this, and those words spoken by God are more powerful than 10,000 battles. There are things you're praying for right now that seem far away, but God is not delaying to punish you. He's delaying to align you. Because if you received it too early, it would crush you. If you walked through that door without strength, the weight would destroy your peace. So God builds your endurance in silence. He strengthens your character in the shadows. He sharpens your discernment in the waiting. And when the moment is right, when your spirit is ready, when your enemies are silenced, when the time is perfect, God will move. And it will be sudden. It will be complete. It will be undeniable. Relaxing in God means living in a different rhythm. The world screams, do more, move faster, chase harder. But God says, be still and know. Know what? Know that I am the one who parts seas. Know that I am the one who makes streams in the desert. Know that I am the one who calls things that are not as though they were. You don't have to exhaust yourself trying to prove your worth. God already declared it. You don't have to beg for what is yours. God already assigned it. You don't have to fight to be seen. God already chose you. And those who are chosen by God don't chase, they attract. They don't panic, they prepare, they don't force, they flow. When God is your source, you stop leaning on people. You stop relying on circumstances. You stop looking to the left or right. And you fix your gaze on the Almighty. And in that gaze, in that holy focus, you find strength that makes no sense. You find peace that surpasses understanding. You find joy that endures beyond pain. You find purpose that no man can cancel. So lift your head, shake off the dust, let go of the fear that's been choking your vision. You are not forsaken. You are not forgotten. God has not left you. He has hidden you. He has protected you, and He is speaking to your soul right now. Relax. It's coming. What I promise is still on the way. Not one dream placed in your heart will die if it was born of God. Not one dream placed in your heart will die if it was born of God. And it's not God. Not one tear you've shed in faith will go uncollected. God sees the sacrifice. He sees the pain you didn't speak. He knows the burdens you carried without complaining. And He is faithful. He is just. He is mighty. He is able. God will reward you not in men's time, but in perfect time. And when that time comes, the same people who overlooked you will be in awe. The same places where you were rejected will open their doors. The same areas where you failed will become testimonies of God's power. But to get there, you must stop fighting battles that God already won. You must stop arguing with people God already removed. You must stop rehearsing wounds that God already healed. Relax. Don't just hear the word, live it. Let your actions speak trust. Let your silence declare faith. Let your patience become worship, because worship is not just a sound. It is a lifestyle. And when your lifestyle says, God, I trust you, heaven takes notice. The idea that you don't have to do everything is a sound in your life. You pray others, then you got to worship. Heaven takes notice. Some of you have been on the edge of giving up. You said, I can't do this anymore. I've waited too long. But let me tell you, right before harvest comes weariness. Right before breakthrough comes pressure. Right before the release comes silence. That's where you are. You're not at the end. You're at the edge. And if you can just hold on, if you can just remain in peace, if you can just refuse to panic, God will show up in such power that your enemies won't be able to deny it. You don't need to fear missing your moment. When your life is in God's hands, nothing meant for you can pass you by. Not the job, not the opportunity, not the blessing. What God said will find you. It will pursue you. It will overtake you. And it will establish you in ways that your efforts never could. That's why he says relax. Because if you keep trying to hold everything together in your own strength, you'll miss the supernatural. God doesn't need your anxiety. He needs your attention. He doesn't need your hustle. He needs your humility. He doesn't need your worry. He needs your worship. Because when you worship instead of worry, when you surrender instead of strive, when you trust instead of fear, God releases. He releases favor. He releases direction. He releases divine connections. Not because you earned it, but because you aligned with Him. So today, make a decision. Choose peace over panic. Choose stillness over striving. Choose rest over resistance. Not because life is easy, but because God is able. Not because you see the finish line, but because God has already written the victory. And if God is in control, then nothing is out of control. If God has spoken peace, then no storm can overturn it. Let your soul be still. Let your spirit rise. Let your faith speak louder than your fear. Because when God says relax, He's not asking for silence. He's inviting you to faith. Not empty words, not forced smiles, but the deep burning assurance that everything He said is already in motion. Even if you can't see it, even if you can't feel it, even if the world says otherwise, God is still faithful. When God says relax, He is not asking you to ignore your circumstances. He is commanding you to shift your focus from what's around you to who is above you. Too often we allow the chaos of the world to become louder than the calm of God's voice. We become addicted to noise, to movement, to solving everything in our own power. But God in His supreme wisdom is teaching you something higher, something eternal. He is training your spirit not to react to trouble, but to rise above it. He is teaching you that divine peace is not the absence of storms. It is the presence of trust in the midst of them. You may think things are falling apart, but in truth, God is letting some things collapse so that what He builds next will be unshakable. You prayed for a breakthrough, but did you expect it to come through ease? Or did you trust that God would use the fire to refine, the pressure to shape, and the silence to strengthen? God's methods are not always comfortable, but they are always perfect. He is not rushed by your impatience, nor is He moved by your worry. God is working even in the delay. And the stillness He asks of you is not punishment. It is preparation. The world will say, take control. God says, give me control. The world will say, push harder. God says, stand still and see what I will do. The world rewards anxiety with applause and busyness with approval. But God rewards obedience with peace. That's why your rest in Him is a weapon. It confuses every voice that says your life should be falling apart. When you walk in divine calm, when your spirit refuses to bow to fear, you are proclaiming to the world, my trust is not in outcomes. It is in God. Do not let the weight of life become heavier than the Word of God in your heart. Do not allow temporary delay to become permanent discouragement. Just because you cannot trace His hand doesn't mean you cannot trust His plan. God never abandons His people. He does not grow weary He does not lose track of His promises. And if God has spoken peace to your soul, then hold on to it like an anchor, because everything else may shift, but that word will never return void. You are not forgotten in the crowd. You are not just one of many. God sees you specifically, completely, intentionally. Your name is not lost among billions. Your prayers are not drowned out by others. God knows the very breath you draw. And when He says relax, He's saying, I've accounted for everything you're afraid of. I've already dealt with what hasn't happened yet. I've already made provision for what you haven't seen. Trusting God is not a weakness. It is the highest form of strength. It is choosing to rest while others run. It is choosing to listen while others panic. It is choosing to believe that when nothing is working in your favor, God is still working all things for your good. And sometimes it takes more faith to sit quietly than to run frantically. Sometimes the real strength is not in speaking, but in staying silent until God gives the command to move. Look back on your life. How many times did you think it was over? Only to watch God come through at the last moment. How many nights did you cry? Only to wake up and see that the sun still rose, that provision still came, that your strength was renewed. You are not here by accident. You are here because God carried you, because in every moment when you thought you couldn't take one more step, He was the one sustaining you. Now He is asking you to trust Him again, but deeper this time. Not just for small things, but for the impossible. Not just for survival, but for abundance. Not just for daily needs, but for the desires of your heart. But to receive what God has for you, your soul must learn to wait without fear, to hope without doubt, to stand without shaking. You must come to the place where peace becomes your default, where your calm becomes your confidence, and where your stillness becomes your strength. The beauty of divine timing is that it always reveals what human effort could never accomplish. When God moves, He moves in such a way that no one else can take credit. He restores with such completeness that people will wonder how it happened. But you will know it was God. It was His hand. It was His plan. And it came when you chose to believe instead of break, to worship instead of worry, to relax instead of worry. Some of you are praying for direction, for clarity, for a sign. But hear this. God often answers in whispers, not shouts. He leads in quietness, not chaos. If your heart is loud with fear, you may miss the still small voice that's guiding you. That's why God is telling you to calm down, not just outwardly, but inwardly. Your peace must not be based on your surroundings, but on your surrender. If you can trust Him in the storm, you'll hear Him in the silence. And if you can hear Him in the silence, you'll walk with purpose, even when the path is invisible. Your future is not hanging by a thread. It is held by God. Your next chapter is not uncertain. It is already written. And your current waiting is not wasted. It is producing something in you that nothing else could. Every second you spend trusting God is a seed planted in eternity. And when the harvest comes, it will not be according to your striving. It will be according to His promise. So quiet your soul. Breathe deeply. Stop rehearsing the worst case scenario. God is not panicking in heaven. He is not confused. He is not figuring it out as He goes. He saw this moment before you were born. He knew what you'd face and He prepared for it. He knew who would betray you, and He already made a way to restore you. He knew the doors that would close, and He already built the ones that will open. Nothing surprises God. Nothing delays His plan, and nothing can stop what He has ordained. The more you relax in God, the more your enemies lose their grip. The more you rest in His promises, the more the voices of doubt fade away. The more you place your full weight on His faithfulness, the less your past can haunt you. You are not at the mercy of circumstances. You are in the hands of the one who controls all things. And when you trust that truth, your spirit becomes unshakable. You begin to move with grace, speak with power, and live with boldness. Because when God says, relax, He is not dismissing your pain. He is elevating your perspective. He's calling you to rise above fear, to detach from desperation, and to look again, not at what is missing, but at who is present. God is here. And if God is here, then provision is here. Peace is here. Wisdom is here. Power is here. Everything you need is in Him. Everything you desire will come from. So let go. Let the weight fall off your shoulders. Let the burden be released from your mind, and say within yourself, I will trust. I will rest. I will believe. You may not know when, you may not know how, but you know who. And if you know who holds your future, then you already have the answer to every question. Let that truth become your anchor, your shield, your strength. God said, relax. And when God speaks, He speaks only what is true, only what is holy, and only what will stand forever. So let His word be enough. Let His voice drown out every other. Let His peace become your dwelling place. Because everything that is meant for you, everything your heart has prayed for, everything your soul has waited for, everything that aligns with God's will find you. Not because you chased it, but because you trusted. Not because you forced it, but because you flowed with God's timing. That is the power of resting in God. That is the reward of trusting without wavering. And when it all comes, when the peace floods your life, when the answers arrive, when the provision overflows, when the blessing breaks through, don't forget this moment. Don't forget the silence, the stillness, the sacred calm, because that is where your breakthrough was born. That is where heaven responded. That is where God moved in your stillness, in your surrender, in your trust. When God tells you to relax, He is not merely offering comfort. He is issuing a divine command that separates those who walk by sight from those who walk by faith. It is a call to spiritual maturity. It is a challenge to trust not in your emotions, not in the noise of the world, not in the opinions of men, but in the unchanging, all-powerful nature of God. And when you understand who is speaking, then His words will become your shield, your compass, and your peace. His voice is not like the voice of man. Man speaks from limitation. God speaks from eternity. Man reacts. God ordains. And when He speaks a word over your life, it echoes through time with unstoppable force. To relax in God does not mean you have given up. It means you finally stepped into divine agreement. It means your soul no longer wages war against the timing of heaven. It means you are no longer trying to fix spiritual matters with physical tools. It means you no longer allow fear to shape your steps. Because the more you know God, the less room there is for anxiety. The more deeply you trust God, the less control you need. You begin to understand that your steps are not random. They are ordered. And when your life is in the hands of God, even detours are part of the design. There are times when the silence of God is louder than 1,000 answers. It is in the silence that your faith is forged. It is in the stillness that your spirit is strengthened. When there is nothing left to do and all you have is trust, this is where the foundation of true faith is laid, because faith is not proven by results. It is proven by obedience. And your obedience and stillness shouts louder in heaven than all your striving on earth. The world will call your peace foolish. It will not understand why you can sleep while the storm rages. It will question your calm, doubt your patience, and mock your stillness. But what the world cannot see is the unbreakable covenant between your heart and God. What the world cannot touch is the strength that flows from surrender. While others seek validation and applause and progress, you rest in the quiet power of alignment. While others are busy building towers on sand, you are standing on the rock of God's promises. And when you are aligned with God, you are not anxious about who left, what failed, or what hasn't arrived. You know that what departs was never meant to stay. What failed was never part of your future. And what hasn't arrived is still being prepared. Because God does not withhold to punish, He withholds to protect. He doesn't delay to test your patience. He delays to develop your purpose. And the moment you start seeing the delay is a blessing, the wait becomes easier and the peace becomes permanent. So many chase what is never meant to be theirs. So many grasp, hustle, and beg for things that would poison them if they came too soon. But those who wait on God, those who trust and relax in His wisdom, receive not just a gift, but a crown. They receive what is tailor-made for their calling, what has been sealed with divine fingerprints, what will not come with sorrow or loss, but with clarity, honor, and grace. It is time to stop negotiating with doubt. It is time to stop holding hands with worry. Doubt is a thief. Worry is a liar, and both will rob you of the peace God already gave you. You do not need a new promise. You need to believe the one you've already received. The words of God are not theories. They are not suggestions. They are not fragile opinions. They are eternal truths spoken by the Creator of heaven and earth, who is not moved by time, trends, or threats, When God tells you to relax, He is realigning your spirit with the frequency of faith. He is lifting you above the fog of fear and placing you in the clarity of trust. Because fear demands answers, but faith demands obedience. Fear asks, what if it never happens? Faith declares it will happen when God decides. Fear focuses on the lack. Faith rests in the source. And the moment you choose faith over fear, the atmosphere shifts, the burden lifts, and your heart begins to rise in quiet strength. Some of you have been carrying loads that were never yours to bear. You've been fighting battles that God never called you to fight. You've been pleading for things that God already decided to give you, but in His time, and now your soul is weary. But God is not calling you to fight harder. He is calling you to release. Let go. Let go of the panic. Let go of the control. Let go of the need to understand every step. You do not need to know the path if you trust the guide. Let the presence of God become your dwelling place. Not just your place of refuge in trouble, but your home in all seasons. Make peace your new atmosphere. Make trust your permanent posture. Make stillness your weapon. Because the soul that rests in God becomes unshakable, immovable, unbothered by the shifting tides of this world. This is not arrogance. This is not ignorance. This is the quiet strength that comes from knowing you belong to the one who commands the wind and calms the waves. Do. And when it feels like nothing is happening, that's often when everything is happening. In silence, God is working. In the background, He is arranging what no man can. In the stillness, He is refining your character, increasing your capacity, strengthening your resolve. Because what is coming requires more than just desire. It requires endurance. And God will never send you into battle with an untrained spirit. That's why the stillness matters. That's why the waiting is holy. That's why the peace is sacred. You are not waiting for something small. You are not waiting for crumbs. You are waiting for the fullness of what God has ordained. And anything of that magnitude cannot be rushed. The deeper the foundation, the higher the structure. So if it feels like God is digging deep into your soul, if it feels like He is stretching you beyond your limits, it's because the blessing that is coming requires roots that will not be shaken. Let your heart be anchored in that truth. Let your mind be renewed by it. Let your spirit rise with fresh strength, because God is not asking you to pretend everything is fine. He is asking you to believe that in Him everything will be made right. You don't need to suppress your pain. You don't need to hide your fears. You simply need to place them in the hands of God and then rest in the assurance that He is more than enough. God said, relax. And when God speaks, His word becomes your authority. His word becomes your peace. His word becomes your victory. You don't need to wait for confirmation when the command has already been given. Stop looking for signs when God already gave you the signal. Rest, trust, wait. You are not being denied. You are being developed. You are not being punished. You are being positioned. And when the time comes, what God brings will not just bless you. It will overflow, elevate, and transform everything around you. Let's go. Yeah, let's go. The greatest evidence of trust is rest. The greatest expression of faith is peace. Not the peace that comes from the world, but the peace that flows from knowing you are completely, eternally, and unconditionally held by the hands of God. Let that truth saturate every cell of your being. Let it renew your thinking. Let it calm your heartbeat. Let it reset your rhythm. Because what is meant for you will not miss you. What is ordained for you will not be delayed forever. And what God has promised you is coming. Not by force, not by fear, not by frantic effort, but by His power, His hand, and His perfect timing. Relax, because God said so, and that is enough.